And look at the economy of the Philippines. Naghihikaos na po tayo. Naghihikaos ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Plus this one na bago, ngayon lang. Then, ang tanong sa gobyerno ni BBM, ano ang gagawin mo at ano ang mitigating plan mo to make it sure na hindi siya mabigat para sa mga Pilipino. Kasi mabigat yan sa mga Pilipino.
That is a relevant response. You know why? Because firstly, I am not the complainant. I am not bound by the verification. Hindi ba? Why are you talking about authentic records? I am speaking as a House member and participating in the House Committee on Justice. The point is not on point, Madam Chair. And my question is basically, are we being challenged that what is being presented is actually not the true representation of the SALN of the Vice President for 2023 and 2024? Kasi parang ganun yung dating. And more importantly, dinabas ho ito. Nakita ho ng bayan, yung 88 million na laman po ng SALN. So, think ko that should not be considered, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, just one last one.
Yes, you may proceed.
Well, he's right to ignore it, but firstly, he was challenging the availability of public records. So we were submitting the public records actually available. And secondly, I'm not asking that it be made part of the complaint. This is being submitted for the consideration of the body that it is untrue that public records relating to SALN, unexplained wealth, do not currently exist. It exists. And we had been submitting it for the record, Madam Chair, irrespective of whatever documents that had not been submitted by this complaint. Madam Chair, I submit.
The Honorable Suntay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, Congressman Ridon stated two facts. First, tama yung sinabi niya, he's not a complainant, but he's trying to introduce new documents which he wants us to consider. Second, the document he is trying to introduce is not to the knowledge of the complainant. So we cannot consider it here because it's not part of the complaint.
The Honorable De Lima.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing prevents this committee from directing the production of SALNs as essential documents in determining the facts of these proceedings. Impeachment is sui generis. We have all the plenary power or authority to do that, just to arrive at the correct conclusion, just to substantiate and establish the necessary and essential facts. That is my position, Madam Chair.
Just like any other manifestation of the justice members, the document presented by the Honorable Ridon forms part of his manifestation. And
Madam Chair.
therefore, all of your manifestations, including the documents which were shared, will become basis of the judgment of the justice members in determining the sufficiency in substance.
Madam-
That might not be introduced as an evidence yet, but that might be introduced as part of the manifestation of the Honorable Ridon. Next is the Honorable Benny Abante.
On the issue of, just like what my good friend Congressman Rufo said, the VP Sara, as DepEd Secretary, is not an impeachable officer, and therefore the House Committee on Justice has no jurisdiction over her. No? Now, to me, that would be a clever technical argument. Kaya ako ngayon nag-aaral na ng law. Kaya hindi ako abogado dahil si Congressman Rufus, magaling talaga ito. Kaya can you imagine, napupuyat ako sa pag-aaral. But anyway, Madam Chair, yung pong clever technical argument na ito, it intentionally confuses the position held with the person holding it. In the Philippine context, the House Committee on Justice jurisdiction is not determined status of the person being charged, not the specific desk they were sitting at when the act occurred. For example, nakita ko rin po yung tinatawag nating single personality doctrine. Ito po ang punto rito. You are not impeaching a secretary. You are impeaching the Vice President for her conduct while in public service. The Vice President does not have any split personality. Sino bang ating tinutukoy dito? Si Mr. Jekyll ba o si Dr. Hyde? Di ba? Not a split personality. She is a single impeachable officer. Whether she is performing her duties as the OVP or at DepEd, she remains the Vice President of the Philippines, Madam Chair. You cannot strip away her impeachable status just because she stepped into a cabinet meeting. If she commits graft as DepEd Secretary, tulad po na nabanggit ni Congressman Chel Jono, she has committed graft as the Vice President. And that makes her unfit for office. Ito po ang punto. The Constitution identifies betrayal of public trust as a ground for impeachment. It does not say betrayal of public trust only in the performance of the office of the Vice President duties. If she used her position as a high-ranking official to mismanage DepEd funds or take bribes, she has betrayed the trust the people place in her as what? As the second highest official of the land. The House has jurisdiction because the person is an impeachable officer. Yun lang po, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Ridon?
Well, sa totoo lang ho, kahit hindi na ho natin pag-usapan yung split personality between Vice President and DepEd Secretary, siguro maganda pag-usapan na lang ho natin yung usapin po ng tenure. Kasi impeachable officials are impeachable within their tenure of office. No? So the Vice President has a tenure of office from June 30, 2022 to June 30, 2028. So ang tanong po, yung po bang mga impeachable acts, impeachable offenses, kailan po ito nangyari? Nangyari po ba ito within this particular tenure of office ng isang impeachable officer? Kung ang sagot po dyan ay oo, and quite certainly, yung pong acts niya, Vice President, happened during her tenure of office while she was DepEd Secretary, pasok po yun as impeachable acts and impeachable offenses while she is Vice President. Yun lang po, Madam Chair.
There is a motion to declare the sufficiency in substance of Sabalia et al. Impeachment complaint. The same has been seconded by the Honorable Tino and the Honorable Zamora. Do I hear an objection? No one is objecting?
Objection, Madam.
An objection has been registered by the Honorable Suntay, which means we will proceed to vote. Those who are in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Can you higher your hands just to make sure that the Secretariat will come up with an accurate counting? Secretariat, are you okay? Kong Dumogan is here and raising his hand as well. Oh, you may now put down your hands. Those who are not in favor of the motion, those who are not in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. It's okay. Those who abstain, please raise your right hand. All right, so that concludes the voting. Secretariat, the result, please. For the record, the Honorable Renego just came and she is registering as well her vote for the affirmative. That is in favor of the motion. The vote of Arnan Panaligan is counted already per the Secretariat. With 54 votes in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 0 abstention, the Chair declares the sufficiency in substance of Sabala et al. Impeachment complaint. So ruled. Now we proceed to the fourth impeachment complaint, the Cabrera impeachment complaint endorsed by the Honorable Abante and the Honorable Ortega. The Honorable Zamora.
In view of the finding of the sufficiency and substance of the two impeachment complaints, I move to issue notice to the Vice President or the respondent of the impeachment complaints to file her answer to the impeachment complaints within a non-extendable period of 10 calendar days from receipt of this notice. Thank you, Madam Chair.
There is a motion for the issuance of notice to Vice President Sara Duterte for the filing of her answer to the two impeachment complaints within the non-extendable period of 10 days. Do I hear a second? The same has been seconded. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is granted.
Gross faithlessness. Pagtataksil sa tiwala ng publiko. Definitely yung pagbabanta po sa ating Papangulo, sa First Lady, at sa ating Speaker ay maliwanag na pagtataksil. Dahil itong tao po, yung Pangulo po natin, ay pinagkatiwalaan at hinalal para mamuno po sa ating bansa. We have to look at the surface. Hindi ko po sinasabi na guilty na. Dahil yung guilty or not, yung trial po yan sa Senado. Ang nandito lamang po ay by mere narration of facts. Sa pagbabasa lamang po ba neto, meron po bang grounds na na-violate? I submit, Madam Chair.
Pero sa nakikita nyo po, maliban sa langis, given na yan, pati na rin yung sa mga imported na mga inangkat natin, ano pa ang nakikita nyo pong posibleng indirectly na epekto nito sa atin pong bansa, Prof?
Una, tungkol muna doon sa sinasabi mo na ang tawag nito, hindi mananalo ang Iran. One thing that you have to remember, walang mananalo sa kanila sa Gulf states, even Israel. It's not a win. It's a destruction of all countries in the Gulf. Kapag sumabog yan at nagtira-tirahan sila. So it's not really necessarily because Iran knows that it will not win. Actually, Iran is confident that it can win. Yun nga ang ano doon eh. Yun nga ang problema doon eh, because they even are confident na kaya nila. Pero ang tanong kasi dyan, kapag nagtirahan na lahat yan, ang Gulf State, andyan ang US, andyan ang Israel, titirahan na sila with all the militias na backing Iran and fighting for Iran, sasabog ang buong Middle East mo, which is the thing that we don't want. Because maybe it will be a prelude to a third world war because madadrag nga dyan ang major powers mo, the likes of Russia and others. Turkey is there as a major power as well. So it's not a simple thing of Iran winning and Iran losing. It's not Iran per se. It's a wider Middle East conflict na mangyayari. So that is much more the analysis that I can give. I don't agree with this kind of analysis na you analyze one country only as against the rest. No, it's not. It's not like that. On the other hand, yung sinasabi mo naman, since andyan na si Congressman Suntay, when you talk about real danger sa Pilipinas, ipinag-uusapan ito ngayon. Kasi first and foremost, you have EDCA sites. Ito nga sinasabi natin. Ang EDCA sites is, if you put the Philippines in the context of Bahrain, Qatar, and all of this, ito yun. Kaya nga sinasabi natin, we have to do away with military bases na hindi atin. Because it is a magnet for retaliation if in any case there is a war and you have an alliance with the United States at ang United States ang nag-start ng war. So kaya yan is a malaking usapin na dapat pag-usapan ng mga Pilipino at maintindihan at magkaroon ng lesson sa nangyayari sa Middle East right now and even other kumbaga other events in history na makikita mo ang sitwasyon ng Pilipinas. Kumbaga may foresight ka kung ano mangyayari sa sitwasyon ng Pilipinas. So that is one indirect or a lesson that probably can be drawn sa nangyayari ngayon sa Gulf. On the other hand, when you talk about real danger sa Pilipinas, immediate and direct from that conflict in the Gulf, the war in the Gulf right now. First is energy. Yes, oil. Kapag tumaas ang prices ng oil sa international market, tataas sa atin, import dependent tayo, lahat ng bilihin tataas, kuryente tataas, ang pamasahe tataas, and it impacts the lives of Filipinos. Ang tanong, kakayanin ba ng gobyerno ni BBM since ang utang natin 17.5 trillion na, walang pera ang gobyerno, may corruption ka, ang daming problema, and it will cause inflation. And then buying of oil, it has an impact on the dollar, on the peso. Magkakaroon ka ng pressure on the peso kasi for the same amount of oil na i-import mo dahil mataas ang presyo sa international market, you need more peso because you need to convert the peso into dollar. So there is a pressure on the peso. That is another effect. Shipping. Maritime tayo eh. So sometimes ang shipping is part of our quote-unquote activity and economic activity. So that will be impacted kasi ngayon sarado ang ilang kumbaga ang ilang shipping lanes na napasok doon sa Middle East. That's one. Another one is the business sector. Nagpa-fly. Mahirap ngayon ang daming areas sa Middle East na walang no-flight zone. Especially because may war ka. So that is a cost to business. Investment. Ngayon nakikita nila na like for example countries in the Gulf na may mga military bases and military assets, frontline states yan ng United States, especially in the context of war. Ngayon nakikita nila may EDCA sites. Oh my God. So if this is the case, probably I should not invest in the Philippines because maybe something happened and ang kawawa naman ng investment ko kung naging nagkataon. So that's another perception. Because one thing that you have to remember, perception is very important, especially when you talk about business. Another thing is remittances. Nagkakagulo ang Gulf. Marami tayong mga kababayan doon. So ang isa sa pinaka direct impact sa ekonomiya ng Pilipinas is what you call remittances ng OFW. And one thing that you have to remember, when you talk about GDP, 9%, more or less 9% of GDP is based on remittances ng ating mga Pilipino. The Gulf is isa sa mga areas sa buong mundo na malaki ang boltahe ng OFW na nagkakaroon tayo ng remittances. And remittances is a macroeconomic stability factor ng Pilipinas. Kapag yan na-cripple, pag tumagal ang war sa Middle East or nag-escalate ang war sa Middle East at tumagal, problemang malaki yan ng Pilipinas. Kasi malaking kawalan yan. On the other hand, vulnerability ng OFW, yung buhay nila, yung kanilang, kung i-repatriate mo sila o hindi, and then kapag nasa Pilipinas sila, na-repatriate, anong trabaho ang ibibigay mo dyan? That's still a problem of government and it's economic still. Then, financial stability nga dahil sa pressure on the peso. These are the direct effect, impact on the economy. And look at the economy of the Philippines. Naghihikaos na po tayo. Naghihikaos ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Plus this one, na bago, ngayon lang. Then, ang tanong sa gobyerno ni BBM, ano ang gagawin mo at ano ang mitigating plan mo to make it sure na hindi siya mabigat para sa mga Pilipino. Kasi mabigat yan sa mga Pilipino. So yun yung matatawag mong direct impact and effect sa atin, sa bansa natin. However, yung indirect impact dyan is the perception that the Philippines is also a frontline state of the United States, especially under BBM. And you are part of what you call security and military network or architecture of the United States in the world. Kasi we're in the Indo-Pacific, but if you look at the security and military network of the United States, the Philippines is one of them. Because you have the EDCA sites. Na ngayon, sinasabi ng ng National Security Council at ng AFP na hindi daw military bases ng US. Come on, give me a break. Sino bang nagbubulahan dito? Hindi po bobo ang mga Pilipino. At lalo naman ako, hindi ako bobo para hindi ko maintindihan that these are military bases. Kaya pwede ba? Magsabi tayo ng totoo para alam natin kung anong gagawin natin para sa bayan natin.